Okay, so real quick, I'm just gonna run through how to add a new REST API route in Flask that will interact with the database. So right for the demo, I'm just gonna implement this /lectures route. It's a get route, and we want to basically have it display all of the IDs of every lecture record in our table, in our database table. So let's log into the database real quick. Alright, so it's empty, cool. And we'll just confirm that we can connect to the server by viewing in the browser. And in Postman, we can also make a GET request. Okay, cool. So now, basically, to add a new route, you'll define a function. So we'll call it def get lecture IDs. Okay. Default return 200. But to make it an API route, you have to wrap it in this app.root function decorator, where we'll define the route. So we'll call it /lectures. Okay, yeah, so the first response parameter is the response body, and the second is the response status code, right? So it says 200, but you can change that to say, I don't know, 202, right? Or then 401. Is it 418? Right, I'm a teapot, it's a funny one. Anyways, right, and if we were to say change this to lectures with a Z, right, now this is not going to resolve anymore. We got a 404 not found. Right, we'd have to change it to this. Okay, switch it back. And also, okay, so all your routes are going to default to get methods, right? We were making get requests, right? But we could change this to, right, and if we did say a post request, it's gonna give us this method not allowed, right? Unless you modify the code to accept post requests. Okay. But right now we want to implement a get route, so this is fine. So the default response would just be an empty list, right? If there's no records in the database. To actually query the database, we can steal this snippet of code. Right, so this function get SQLDB connection is defined in this other file here. Basically, it just establishes a PyMySQL connection based off this config, which will look in the environment variables, and then it has some defaults set. So we can make a query with like cur.execute. This is just saying execute a query, and then we'll specify the query string. Select ID from lectures. Okay. You fetch the query result from the cursor like this. Use fetch all because it's a multiple type of response. So if, well, we can just say, okay. Yeah, so it doesn't like the tuple response, I guess. Or I guess just a type. So if it's a if not. Okay. So basically we're saying if there were no like results from the query, then return just an empty list. But otherwise, let's actually create a lecture. Cool. Which we can now see in our database. Okay. So for just for testing. Yeah, okay. So it went through this branch instead of that branch. But really, let's see. voila. Okay. And this works because this is a list comprehension if you're not like super familiar. Basically, you'll see in a second. Yeah, so it's a list of dictionaries that gets returned, right? So when we say result ID, right, we're accessing, you know, the ID key or the value associated with the ID key. And we're just kind of iterating for each one. So we'll say grab this, grab this, grab this, because it's the ID portion. And yeah, that's pretty much the whole route. It's all done. So the next step would be to add tests, but yeah.